Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to part 7 for What If Deku Was the Juggernaut. If you guys are excited for more of this series and want to see more from me, that one weeb, make sure to hit the like button, comment down below what you think, and subscribe to the channel for more. I will see all of you guys in the video. Hope you all have a great day, and let's just get right into it. It has been a while since the last part. If you guys have forgotten what happened last part, make sure to go and watch the video in the description below. I will leave a YouTube link for that, and that will be part 6. But anyway, let's just get right into part 7 for What If Deku Was the Juggernaut. Final examinations had begun. It was time for Deku, Bakugo, and the rest of the teams to fight their teachers. Deku and Bakugo would be taking on the strongest teacher in UA of All Might. Bakugo was a bit nervous, but he was ready to take this guy down. Deku crunched his knuckles as he cracked them, telling Bakugo that he's ready to take him down, as All Might is his favorite hero, but still, they gotta win this test. Bakugo would smile as he tells Deku that there's no way that All Might can even beat both Bakugo and Deku. As the two would get ready for their test, All Might would begin as he says that he won't be wearing the guards that the other teachers will be wearing, as he'll have both Deku to deal with and Bakugo. The teachers had all agreed to this along with the students, with both Deku, the Juggernaut, and Bakugo being ready for it. As they get into the arena below, as soon as the timer starts, Bakugo and Deku were not held back, as they begin running down the road directly towards All Might, not even trying to do a strategy. As All Might throws his initial punch of wind, Deku would tell Bakugo to get behind him, as he stands firm, growing to his full size, him now towering over All Might even. He would use his Juggernaut abilities to create a mystical shield in front of them out of his power, as he holds his hand out, the wind going directly around them. Bakugo would tell him to move forward, as he begins charging forward at full speed, with Bakugo running behind him using his explosions to boost his speed as well. All Might! Deku would say as he rushes forward, his fist cocked back as he throws it towards All Might. All Might would hold his hand up to catch the punch, and as the two meet, a large explosion could be heard, as Bakugo used a howitzer impact directly under Deku's legs into All Might's gut. As now All Might goes flying back from both the power of the punch of Deku as well as Bakugo, he would go flying into a building, as both Deku and Bakugo would continue to jump after him. Bakugo would jump on top of Deku's shoulders as he tells him to jump into the building. Deku would put power into his knees, activating One For All to 15% as he goes flying up into the air. He would then pull his fist back and say, One For All, 15%. Detroit to smash! As he just uses a Detroit smash directly into All Might. All Might would cough blood as he feels that Deku is way outpacing him. He thinks that even if Deku himself was only fighting him alone, it might not even be a fair challenge then. He thinks that Deku himself might already be ready to take on All For One. As Bakugo and Deku are tag-teaming All Might's getting beaten mercilessly, as Bakugo is using his explosions to both cause All Might to have bad vision, as well as to cause him to get smoked out from the explosions, and weaken him. Deku is coming in with heavy and slower hits, as he begins to speed them up, however, by using One For All. Juggernaut smash! As he uses an uppercut smash, sending All Might 3 stories upwards, as he goes flying into the air. All Might would use his own Embers of One For All to go smashing down. California kick, he would say, as All Might comes splashing down with a kick, smashing into Deku, sending him flying down to the street, causing some rubble to go flying across the city. The teachers and the students would be watching in awe as these two titans battle throughout the city, causing destruction on levels of which they had never seen. Bakugo would be flying as he uses a howitzer impact again directly into All Might's back. That's getting annoying. He would turn around as he flicks Bakugo, sending him flying away. Now it was just Deku versus All Might, as Deku is now jumping around All Might. Suddenly, All Might would go full force with a 100% punch towards Deku's gut. Deku would sidestep this as he lowers his body's form, causing him to shrink, which would allow him to dodge. He would then suddenly buff back up his arm as he punches All Might, sending him flying back. That was clever, he would say, but not clever enough, as he tries to punch Deku again. Suddenly, Deku would use his shield of his Juggernaut ability to block the kick, which All Might wasn't expecting, as he then comes in with his own kick, hitting All Might in the gut, sending him flying back. The two would begin punching each other Dragon Ball Z style, back and forth for several minutes, with absolute high bursts of wind and power shooting across the city with electricity just flying everywhere. Rocks are moving, the skies are turning, two gods of battles of titans are fighting across the land. Bakugo would get up as he decides, I'm out, this is too much for me, as he begins hobbling towards the goal. All Might would then say, oh no you don't, as he decides that there's no way he's going to let them win now, as this has gone too far. He would then try to turn towards Bakugo. Where are you going, All Might? Deku would say as he grabs All Might's arm, spinning him around and throwing him into a building. The two would grasp knuckles as they begin leaning into each other, using all of their weight pushing towards each other like bulldozers. As they begin pushing towards each other, almost a form of power would begin to form between them, as the two then decide to go at it all out, beginning to up their speed and strength. Let's go all out, Deku would think, as he boosts One for all the way up to 75% and sends a punch towards All Might. All Might would hold up both hands as he catches the punch and actually holds it, then picks up Deku and throws him into the air before flying up and kneeing him in the back. Deku would go flying into the air, spitting blood, as he turns around with his own punch, hitting All Might in the head. As the two begin to keep battling, Baku makes it through the gate, with him and Deku winning. Now that both of them had actually successfully passed the test would be over, with All Might now breathing heavily. As Deku would say sorry about that, he would carry All Might to the goal, as the two would actually get out of the testing area. Wow, young Midoriya, that was impressive. You actually kept up with me the entire fight. Deku would smile as he said that Gran Torino taught him a thing or two about using One for All. All Might would certainly agree with him. As the rest of the testing would go as usual, the teachers would be surprisingly impressed with what Deku and Bakugo had achieved, with almost toppling the #1 hero in a fight. Deku would be surprisingly awarded by his fellow classmates, having watched him actually take on All Might at full strength, seemingly, as they kept going all out towards each other. Deku would say it was probably nothing, and that All Might was probably holding back too, and he'd say he was only about using 75% of his power anyway. This is when All Might would be thinking he had been going all out, and he actually shortened his time by another 2 minutes by going too serious in that fight. Now that all the tests had been over, they would announce that the summer training camp would begin soon, in a few months. The rest of the students would be sent home along with Deku, as he would say goodbye to All Might for that until summer, and says he'll see them at the summer training camp. With the summer training camp finally arriving, Deku and the rest of his team of Class 1A would finally arrive as they get off the bus, with Deku needing 2 seats to sit on, as he finally shrinks himself to get through the aisle. As he gets out of the bus, this is when the Wild Wild Pussycats would see all of them, with Deku towering over the rest of his class. They would then send them into the forest, as the Wild Wild Pussycats would then use her ability to hit the ground and begin to make it move. Deku would say there's no need, as he jumps off the ground, going sky high, almost flying through the air, with the rest of Class 1A sighing in annoyance as they see him flying towards the camping area in 2 big leaps. The rest of them would finally make it afterwards, with Deku being the first one there, even before Aizawa or the Wild Wild Pussycats. They'd be impressed with his physical strength, as Aizawa says that his raw power is basically equal to that of All Might's, with them turning around asking if he's kidding, with Aizawa shaking his head in remorse, saying he's not kidding. Deku would laugh, as he says Aizawa-sensei praises him too much. Now that everyone had arrived, they'd eat dinner, with him walking up to Koda and asking and introducing himself to him. Hi, my name's Midoriya. This is when Koda would attempt to kick, Deku in a place of pain. And as he does this, Deku would look down to see that his leg can't even reach. Koda would sigh as he looks at his short leg, thinking he failed. Deku would then ask what he was doing, when Koda says nothing as he walks away. Ito would look up to Deku and say that maybe he shouldn't stay in that form all the time, as when they're eating it's a little bit less intimidating if he goes to his normal form. Deku would sigh, as he then says that it's easier to just sit like this around, as he then lowers his power percentage to where he shrinks back to his normal size. Deku would sit down at the table and eat along with Uraraka, Ida, and the rest of his friends, until the next day. He would ask the Wild Wild Pussycats about why Koda didn't like heroes that much, as Koda was eyeing them with disdain the entire time they were there. She would explain that Koda's parents had actually been murdered by a villain and they were heroes, and he doesn't like heroes because of that, because he doesn't want them to die like his parents had. Deku would say that he sees, as the training would begin for the new training camp. As Deku's training would mostly involve him just carrying out large objects, he would eventually punch down a series of 5 large trees as he carries them around, working on his physical strength and not so much his quirk strength. As you can already imagine, that's pretty strong. Now, the rest of the classmen would continue working on their usual, what they would have done in the original, until eventually the test of courage would come up. As the League of Villains would invade the campsite, blue flames would cover the entire area, as Dabi and Aizawa's fight would begin. Deku would know where Kota is, as he had seen him before during his training with carrying his trees around. He would tell Aizawa and the Wild Wild Pussycats he was going to go save him, as he goes rushing off, jumping off into the forest. As he gets there, he would see Kota standing by another man, with large muscles bursting around his entire form. As Deku arrives, Muscular would turn around as he sees someone even greater in height and stature than him. As Deku and Muscular meet eyes, the twos, both being incredibly physically strong, would decide it's time for them to fight. "So who are you, kid? You one of the hero course students? Or maybe a hero?" Deku would then say that he has no need to talk to a villain like him, as their two fists would clash, causing wind to go bursting all around. "Wow, you're strong," Muscular would think, as he says, "but not as strong as me." He would then kick Deku, which would cause Deku to move back maybe an inch. Deku would frown as he then says Muscular if that's all he's got, powering himself up with 2% of One For All and punching Muscular into the air. Muscular would cough blood as he decides that this kid's going all out. He begins to increase his power as well, deciding that if he's going to go all out right from the bat, then so should he. As Muscular is now punching at full speed at Deku, Deku has raised One For All to 50%, dodging and weaving out of the way, faster and nimbler than anyone his size he had ever seen. Muscular would continue punching as fast as he can, wondering why he can't hit this guy. Deku would then say that he's just too slow, as he punches Muscular again in the chest, causing one of his lungs to collapse. Muscular would say, as he gags on his own blood, as he falls backwards into the mountain. He would then pull himself up as he mends his injuries with his muscles. He then grows to an even greater stature, saying he has to go at 100% or more, or this kid's going to actually beat him. Deku would then say it's over, as he tells Kota there's no need to be afraid anymore. Kota would look up in awe as he sees this symbol of strength grab the fist of Muscular and begin to twist it slowly, as he grabs Muscular and begins throwing him around like a rag doll. "There's no way that you could ever beat me," he would say to Muscular, as he charges in his hand all 100% of One For All plus Juggernaut. As he increases his strength, his muscles begin to grow in power, as Muscular would look up to see the red eyes of Deku, as he sees not inside of Deku a hero, but a demon. You're a monster!" Deku would smile as he then says, "No, I'm a hero." He punches Muscular with all his strength, as Muscular is turned to seemingly ashes from the power. His body goes flying backwards into the trees, as all of his muscles are ripped apart into nothing, as Muscular's head goes rolling down the valley below. Muscular's entire form now just being gone. Deku would look back to Kota and ask if he's alright, holding his hand down for Kota to jump into. As Kota climbs into Deku's hand, who seems like a small child to him, Deku would hold him on his shoulders as he decides that they're going to get back to Aizawa fast. He tells him to hold on as he jumps off of the mountain, with Kota being in awe over the area below. As he brings Kota back to Aizawa, he tells him that there's more people in danger, and he's going to go and save them. As Deku would then rush around, helping the other heroes as well as the rest of his Class 1A from fighting off the League of Villains, he would eventually run into what we know as Toga. As Toga sees him covered in blood from Muscular, not his own blood, she would immediately begin to fall in love as she sees his strong, statured, muscular body. Deku would look at her and ask what's going on with her, as he flicks her quickly as she goes flying back into the tree, her not being surprised at that. Ochako would turn around and thank Deku for the assistance, as Deku says no problem, him jumping into the air and flying away. Toga would quickly recover, however. She's already attained Uraraka's blood when she begins to retreat. Deku would see Tokuyami's dark shadow going out of control as he's trying to protect his fellow classmates from that moonfish guy. Deku would immediately tell him that he's got this, as he takes down both Dark Shadow and Moonfish in a single blow, grabbing Dark Shadow and squeezing him in a large hug, pulling the monster back into its smaller form. Wow. Dark Shadow is actually able to push back, he thinks, as he's never actually fought a quirk this strong before. It takes him several seconds to pull all of Dark Shadow back into its original form, before he can shove it back inside Tokuyami by force. Tokiyami would breathe heavily as he thanks Deku for doing that, before they turn to see Moonfish on the ground with his teeth in shatters from Deku's single punch. They pick him up and throw him into a tree, as he's now knocked out, with wrapping rope around him to keep him there. As he's the only one they've captured so far, besides Muscular, who was deceased. As he would then walk towards where he had seen the last of them, he would then find that Todoroki was there alone. Todoroki? Did you happen to see where Bakugo was? I thought he was with you when I flew over here before. Todoroki would say he was, and he turns around. He was right behind me. Bakugo had already been grabbed, as Mr. Compress had grabbed Bakugo and was now making a quick escape, not having realized someone as strong as All Might was already here. As he begins to run back, Deku would begin to run at full speed, but just as he's about to grab Mr. Compress disappears into Kurogiri's portal, with Deku smashing his fist into the ground behind it, screaming no, as Bakugo had now been taken from them. Deku would turn around as he says that they have to go find Bakugo, with the rest of Class 1A saying they need to report back to Aizawa. Deku would regrettably agree, as the rest of the villains, including Dabi, would escape, except for Muscular, of course, and Moonfish, who would be captured and taken back to the police. Deku would be questioned on what happened with Muscular, as he says that he had tried to kill Koda, so he had to finish him off, as he was attempting to go all out against both of them. Deku would be let off the hook, as he had helped stop the attack on Yue again, with now Deku being praised for his strength and achievements. Deku would sigh as he looks to Aizawa and says that he failed. He failed to save his friend Bakugo. As the summer training camp is cut to a short end, Deku promises that he will find Bakugo, no matter what. If you guys want to see the next part for What If Deku Was the Juggernaut, make sure to hit the like button, comment down below what you think, and subscribe to the channel for more. I'll see all of you guys later. Bye.